violence or no other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's a Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
A recent poll by the New Orleans Crime Coalition says that crime and public safety are the most important issues facing the city. We probably didn't need a poll to know that. In fact, violent crimes and homicides, the carjackings and stabbings have all gone up.
Woo! Look at them numbers. Murders up 43%, carjackings 11.7, stabbings 15.1, and rising.
Compared to the last year. This morning, we want to have a conversation about what can be done to combat the issue with two people who are able to do something about it. New Orleans City Council President Helena Moreno and Vice President.
My man wore the Adidas throwbacks with a suit. That's crazy. The fit is wild. Adidas tennis shoes, basketball shoes at that. A full suit and no socks. My man is different. He said, hey, I got to be ready to run from these super gremlins on demon time.
The council, J.P. Morrell, thank you both for coming in. And we've been talking about this. The report that came out from the New Orleans Crime Coalition said, I think what everybody knew, crime is the #1 issue. I mean, over the 4th of July holiday weekend, we had 5 carjackings.
Yeah. I'll say this, Eric. What JP and I are constantly emphasizing is that to solve this major problem, first, the leadership of the city has to admit that there's a problem.
Right. See, Mayor LaToya Cantrell does not want to admit that there's a problem because she wants to give off this image like she's a good mayor, when we all know that sisters are horrible at running cities or anything for that matter, even their households. I mean, we see the results. But it's crazy because the only people who care about this crime issue are gliders. It's like the community is just desensitized to living in filth, and they want to blame it on everybody else. When New Orleans, if any city has a black representation, it's New Orleans. They've got Jason Williams and a black DA. They got Mayor LaToya Cantrell and a black mayor. They've got Sean Ferguson, the black police chief. I mean, what more do you want? They have literally changed the dynamics and the demographics of the political representation in New Orleans, and it shows.
You're talking about the mayor's office.
Yes, and we're also talking about the leadership of the NOPD as well. This is a crisis. Let's be very frank here. We haven't had this level of murders since before Hurricane Katrina. We are #1 per capita in murders out of any city in this country right now. So this is a
#1 per capita in murders. That means they killing more, relative to their distribution or relative to their demographics. They killing more in New Orleans than they are in Philly.
Crisis. And when we're talking about a crisis, it means that it must be dealt with urgency every single day. And we have to take a look at, of course, long-standing problems, no doubt about that. And we're looking at some of those long-term solutions. But what's on fire right now has to do with manpower shortages with NOPD and also the very long response times for calls for service. And that
look at this crying sister. Crying sister. Okay? Long response times. I mean, they are just fumbling the whole city.
That's what we really need to be focused in on. And the council has a series of different options and plans and things that we have funded, but unfortunately, action is just not happening.
So what can you guys do about this?
Well, we've already done things. For example, the council funded $1 million to New Orleans Police and Justice Foundation to improve recruitment, which is abysmal. Previously, for every 5,000 applications filed in, only 100 people took the civil service exam because there was no follow-up by police department recruitment to get people to take the exam, take the physical test to be applicable, be hired. Well,
why is that happening?
Well, we don't know. The police
I know why, because the community just does not care, okay? You have concerned citizens, but when it comes to the community, they don't give a damn.
Police and Justice Foundation came up with a plan to increase recruiting by hiring professional recruiters. The council funded that plan weeks ago, but the administration will not sign the MOU to start the increased recruitment.
So I'm telling you guys, they ran on this defund the police and criminal justice reform platform and all this kind of stuff. We're going to change how black people are represented in the community and in the world and all this kind of stuff. And they've just made it more unsafe. They don't want to recruit more police officers. They don't want to hire more police officers because they think that it is racist.
What we've seen time and time again is the council will come up with solutions. We passed a multi-point crime plan in February and put it out there and said, here's the crime plan. And both the mayor and police chief said, not necessarily, we have our own plan. We've diligently gone through that plan and implemented pieces of it. But every single instance in which administrative action is required, both the chief, lateral hiring, the president and I have spoken about lateral hiring since last fall. All it requires, the chief can do lateral hiring now. All it requires is to come up with a plan. He's been talking about a plan since February. If we can't use lateral hiring to hire veteran police officers into the department, not only are we not filling recruit classes, but we're missing the opportunity to recruit veteran officers from other departments.
And what they're also not mentioning is that, hey, maybe the police officers are discouraged from working because they see the rhetoric. They see the negative response from the community that police get on a daily basis. And it doesn't really encourage you to want to serve for a city that is literally giving you the finger.
I think people are asking the question, why aren't you guys screaming from the rooftops and saying, look, we have a problem here and something's got to be done?
And I'll say this: we feel like we're screaming from
We
the
are
rooftops,
pretty much daily.
and it's like a wall. It's like screaming into a void, screaming at a wall. I mean, for example, we're down now to 983 police officers at this time.
And that means maybe 800 something, 900 something on the actual street.
No, it's way less than
It's
that.
actually less
Way
than
less-
that.
way less
yeah.
than that.
But what's even worse is that we're projected to have under 900 police officers by the end of 2022.
Woo! I told you guys, we're not out of the thick of it yet. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of how these super gremlins on demon time are going to have their way with the city of New Orleans and other major cities across the board that has a diverse representation in leadership.
So when you're looking at a department that's funded roughly to have 1,400 police officers, you can't operate it the same with half of the amount of police officers. We have said to the chief, you need to reorganize the police department because that's what law enforcement experts have told us need to be done within the NOPD and outside of the NOPD. That means potential consolidation of precincts. That means consolidating detectives so that you can better respond to calls for service.
Well, and one of your fellow council members, Oliver Thomas, suggested bringing in the National Guard. A lot of people said that was not the right idea. Maybe bring in more state police. Is that a possibility?
We've been talking, well, go ahead.
It's challenging. I mean, first off, in order for state police to be brought in, the mayor would have to request to be brought in, and to date, she has not requested to do that.
Have you guys asked her to do that?
We have weighed in on the possibility of state police patrolling the highways in particular, because I think the council president calculated 5,000 lost man hours per year, more than that, for NOPD responding to highway traffic accidents. Whether or not the NOPD should be on the streets of the city, based on what's currently going on at the state police on the state level, that may not be the best fit. But I will tell you that it's been very challenging. Michael Harrison, our former police chief, went to Baltimore. He's really tackled that problem of manpower shortage head on by increasing the amount of civilians hired by the police department to take over administrative tasks that you don't need police officers doing.
And we see how Baltimore is doing as well. It's not doing much better.
For service.
Well, and one of your fellow council members, Oliver Thomas, suggested bringing in the National Guard. A lot of people said that was not the right idea. Maybe.
And yes, they do need the National Guard. Trump proposed it in Chicago. They shot it down, called it racist. And then we had a brother, a city councilman, who was a brother who actually asked for the National Guard too. So, hey, it sounds like they are screaming to high heaven that, hey, we need some help. And the community is saying no because it's racist.
Bring in more state police. Is that a possibility?
We've been talking. Well, go ahead.
It's challenging. I mean, first off, in order for state police to be brought in, the mayor would have to request to be brought in, and to date, she has not requested to do that.
Have you guys asked her to do that?
We have weighed in on the possibility of state police patrolling the highways in particular, because I think the council president calculated 5,000 lost man hours per year, more than that, for NOPD responding to highway traffic accidents. Whether or not the NOPD should be on the streets of the city, based on what's currently going on at the state police on the state level, that may not be the best fit. But I will tell you that it's been very challenging. Michael Harrison, our former police chief, went to Baltimore. He's really tackled that problem of manpower shortage head on by increasing the amount of civilians hired by the police department to take over administrative tasks that you don't need police officers doing. When you brought up the 982 number and how many of that is equal to street people, well, you have to take in three factors. One, they count reservists and they count recruits in that number. So that number is absolutely lower than it's supposed to be. But furthermore, the white shirts, the guys you see in the white shirts who are...
Hold up, white shirts are racist.
who are rank, they don't patrol the streets anymore. One big difference between Orleans Parish versus Jefferson and St. Bernard and Plaquemines is that in Jefferson Parish, every single deputy sheriff responds to a call for service. Joe LaPinta will tell you, if I'm driving home and I'm closest to a car wreck, I pull over and do the car wreck. In NOPD, once you hit administrative rank, you don't respond to calls for service. So when you've got a top-heavy department with, 50, 60, 70, maybe 100 people who are in rank, they're driving the few take-home cars we have, but they're not necessarily responding to call service.
And let me talk to you about this, because you mentioned traffic stops. I mean, traffic accidents, things like that, need to be covered. They need police, but they don't need the very highly trained.
Look,
I know in front of my house there was an accident. Let me finish. There was an accident in front of my house. A uniformed officer sat out there for 3 hours, and the cop told me, this is wrong. They should have somebody else doing that. She wound up just directing traffic.
100%. So commissioned officers don't have to respond to accidents that don't have injuries. And so we actually have a group called On-Site Services that can respond to these types of accidents. The City Council is willing to increase the money spent toward these types of on-site services to respond to accidents. The problem is we can't seem to get the city to put out a contract to bid this out for enhanced services.
Again, is that the administration?
Once again, we don't put out contracts. The City Council doesn't put out a contract like this. So it's either the NOPD or the city needs to put out this contract for enhanced services to respond to accidents. And what we've learned now is that there are companies that can also respond to accidents on the interstate, non-injury accidents. So once again, those are saved manpower hours, but unfortunately, once again, screaming into a void, screaming into the wall, we're not seeing the urgency around getting these solutions done.
Doesn't the administration see the problem here? Because I mean, you're looking at crime is the number one issue by far.
Yes, they see it. Trust me, Mayor Contrail, she sees it. I wouldn't be surprised if she's letting the Pookie smash right now. And that's the real reason why these sisters don't want to come down on these super gremlins on demon time, because they're probably involved with these types of guys. These are the guys that they prefer. Even a professional political woman like LaToya, she's definitely getting her back blown out by Pookies and Ray Rays. Remember when she got in the fight in that bathroom and then she went on stage with the rapper and said that she was resolving the issue and all that kind of stuff and using conflict resolution tactics? Well, she was hanging on pretty hard to that rapper's arm. So like I said, she's protecting these types of guys because these are her love interests.
Satisfaction with the city, down. Satisfaction with the NOPD, down.
But Eric, the problem you're seeing is that there has been an effort by the administration since the beginning of the year to deflect and downplay crime is a problem in the city. More importantly, I'll give you an example. At our most recent council meeting, both Councilmember Thomas and I got into an argument with the police chief because he kept saying, well, crime's down, just murders are up. And we're like, wait a second. So they have to read off the stats to dispute that.
Yeah, and that doesn't make sense. We broke that down when they were saying that in Los Angeles as well. If you guys didn't watch my live where I broke down crime in Los Angeles, this is something that they're saying nationwide. Crime is down, but murders are up. No, murders, aggravated assaults, rapes, and home invasions or robberies are a direct representation of the crime trends in your city. The reason why they're saying crime is down is because a lot of times these people are not getting convicted of the like smaller crimes, okay? They're not even getting arrested a lot of times. So basically they're fudging the stats because of their inefficiency as a police unit.
But it got so frustrating. We said the crime is going to be the highest since 92, and he said to us, well, there won't be as many murders as there were in 92. And Oliver and I both said, there's not as many people. Right. And it came down to a point where Councilman Thomas had to tell the chief, listen, chief, are you more likely to be shot now than you were in the 90s? And he took a pause and he goes, well, when you say it that way, yeah, you are more likely to be shot now.
Yes. And this is a black man defending these super gremlins on demon time
than you were in 92 and 94, because the per capita metric is what every city uses.
And in November, he was actually singing a different tune. I think he was at odds with Mayor Cantrell. But now I guess I don't know what they did, what type of incentive they gave the police chief, but he's falling in line with the status quo and trying to keep the same thing going.
How many you actually have, because obviously New York has more crime by the numbers than we do, but it also has 16 times as many people.
And, and when you talk about that, you know, there's just got to be a way to get this administration moving. I mean, is there anything you guys can do?
Well, I'll say this. It's like, I think the council's doing its part as far as funding these initiatives and doing everything that we can to push this administration. I mean, for God's sakes, we're ending up in court these days with this administration, and I would just urge the public to continue to do as well.
Because it's affecting the city, and now since Katrina, we have never been able to get back over the 400,000 mark. We were well above that pre-Katrina, and it's just too many systemic problems.
Well, I mean, you look at, generally speaking, the crime problem in the city, and I think a lot of people feel like the city is more fixated on tourism than it is on the appearance of there not being crime rather than solving it. And this weekend's a great example. They were pulling 10 to 20 officers per district to the French Quarter and CBD during Essence Fest. Now, that made the Essence Fest the safest place to be in the entire city. But then there were individuals. There was someone yesterday on Elysian Fields her car was devastated by a stolen car, vehicle fleeing, and they could not get an officer out there for hours. This is a car where someone was T-boned by a person in a stolen vehicle. They're calling for help, and there's no one to respond, because when you pull that many officers from all the districts to the quarter, the rest of the city is less safe, but the tourists are. And there is a obsession in the city with being obsessed with appearances. It's the same reason why the administration keeps downplaying crime, because they want to make sure that the nation doesn't see the city having a crime problem, even though the residents that are here obviously know that's true.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation. Tomorrow we're dealing with a crime problem. We're talking with Michael Hecht of GNO Inc., who is talking about ways to solve this, because this city is in trouble, and it eventually will affect the economy.
No doubt. And look, once again, there is absolutely low-hanging fruit that the administration and the leadership of the NOPD could do right now if they just understood the urgency of the crisis we're in.
Well, thank you guys for pointing that out. All right, thank you for coming in. Please come back again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Janquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. But I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.